Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another wonderlicious episode of Post-TAP. Haven't done one of these in a hot minute. Things have not been great the past month and a half for your good old pal, your good old boy, your old friend JoshAgeddon over here. I kind of took a little time off of YouTube after FF scoring 2 The Purge, which is still on YouTube, by the way. Go watch that pay-per-view. It's absolutely insane. I made it while I was depressed, and I will get to that during this podcast in a second. But as of this recording, and I don't know if this is actually going to go up. I'm recording this on a Sunday. I don't know if this is going to go up on Sunday or Monday. It depends on when I get done and how long it takes me to edit it together and post it and all that fun stuff. I might have to go to work, in which case I don't get this done before work. I'll just post it on Monday. So whenever you hear this, I'm back in the kitchen so I can, well, as the kids these days say, let him cook. So I'm in the kitchen cooking some videos for you all. That was cringy. I sound like an 8 million year old man, and I apologize for none of it. So yeah, this is episode, and I don't have all that much to talk about on this particular episode. There are really just 3 things in particular. One is wrestling related. The other 2 are more me related. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that here on this episode of Post-TAP. Some programming notes. This upcoming week, I have some matches planned. I have some other videos planned. Andy sent me footage of her applying makeup, and I made that into a video that I posted a couple days ago, Andy's makeup takeover tutorial. Go watch that if you haven't already. It's absolutely hilarious. Shout out to Andy. She is so funny. I love her with all my heart. Sean also sent me some footage of him doing something while taking shots. So at some point, I will be making that video as well, and I haven't watched the footage yet, and I'm already afraid. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to some matches as we start the build, or continue the build, to Crash Course 2, which of course is starting the build to Riot Central 3, which is my WrestleMania, and I'm just hoping that the build to Riot Central 3 is more exciting and entertaining than the build to WrestleMania 41. But you know, all the key players are, going to be there for the entirety of the build instead of just showing up in the beginning of March and vanishing for the rest of the year. Not talking about anyone in particular, Dwayne. I'm staring very angrily in the direction of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson right now.
Where have you been, you bitch?
Alright, I'm sorry if I blew out all of your eardrums. I'm just very unhappy with a certain Samoan man at the moment, which I feel like a lot of people are. But speaking of WWE, they had a pay-per-view yesterday. Again, I'm recording this on a Sunday. I don't know if this is going up on Sunday or Monday, so whenever you're listening to this, I saw the pay-per-view on Saturday. I was actually really... Okay, I wasn't so much looking forward to the show itself because the card was kind of but I was more looking forward to the fact that since they're in Saudi Arabia, the show was going to start airing live at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And normally, I usually have to catch the pay-per-view replays because I have, this thing called a job. So I was like, oh, yay, goody. I'm going to order myself a burger and some chicken strips, and I'm going to get a monster. You know how I do. Which I actually have an update about that. I think I already shared that on... I mentioned on the... I think I mentioned on the podcast that I did with Skylar about Money in the Bank or was that... I can't remember if that was during the podcast or after we stopped recording and we were talking off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to make myself just a teeny tiny bit healthier. I'm trying to cut down to only getting one monster on Wednesdays and Saturday. You can stop. You pick up your jaw. Yes, Joshua is trying to calm down as far as the monster energy intake is concerned. The sky is falling. The heavens are crashing into the sea as we speak. The world. What is this timeline? Relax. Everything is fine. And again, I have a story to get to later on. So I was excited. I was gonna have some food. My favorite thing ever, cheeseburgers. some chicken strips, and a monster while watching Night of Champions, or as Sean keeps calling it, King and Queen of the Ring. Speaking of which, I'm just going to briefly talk about Night of Champions 2025 on this episode of Post TAP. I will, if you want more in-depth analysis, I will direct you over to the Court Martial podcast, because later this week, Sean and Skylar are going to record their review of Night of Champions, and I'm going to be sending them notes, so you're going to get a rehash of JoshAgeddon. I guess that's what I'm going to call myself in the notes. I always call myself something different just to keep them on their toes. I may or may not put the font in Comic Sans, because I know they're both going to love that. Be looking forward to that episode, this upcoming episode of the Court Martial podcast, where they're going to be talking about Night of Champions. It'll be Sean, Skylar, and my notes. The reason why I opted to not join them for that podcast is because, just long story short, Night of Champions this year was the most B show to have ever beat a show, and I don't feel like going through a long-winded review about a show that, it's not even that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. It's just there wasn't all that much to talk about. It was honestly like, I felt like I was watching Super Raw or Super SmackDown, and not a pay-per-view. It was the most filler B show to have ever filled a B show. What are you filling that B show with? Filler. What does that filler consist of? Filler. It's like the Garlic Jr. saga in Dragon Ball Z, which I'm planning on having my mom watch all of Dragon Ball, and I kind of don't want to get, I don't want it to take forever, because as much as I love Dragon Ball, I kind of just want to speed through the filler. I know, like, Andy loves the filler. Me, there's some of it I like, some of it I'm just like, all right, this is boring. Can we just move on to the important stuff? With my mom, I'll show her the filler that I like, and we're skipping to the important stuff, because I don't have the patience to sit through like almost 1,000 episodes with my mom. I love my mom. Shout out to my mom. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. But that's what this show felt like. This was not a bad show. It was fine. It was there. Some important things happened that starts the build to SummerSlam, which SummerSlam is what I'm looking forward to, even though I don't know how to feel about it being 2 nights this year. But I will say one show that I am going to do a TAP review, because this is post-TAP. The reason why alright, so here on post-TAP, if I ever talk about a wrestling show, I'm just going to briefly overview it. If I do a TAP, I'm going to do a more in-depth analysis of a show. So when AEW All In happens, I am going to watch that show, and I am planning on doing a TAP on it, because I'm more just checking in on your meth head cousin to see if he's dead yet. That's basically what I'm doing with AEW All In, because I am kind of curious about that show. But as far as Night of Champions, this show was fine. Again, it was just felt like a filler episode, where you kind of just want to get to the meat of the matter. I'm honestly more looking forward to Evolution, which the Evolution is coming in the middle of July. It's the all-women's pay-per-view. I'm very curious as to what they're going to put on that card, because I feel like a lot of it's going to tie directly into SummerSlam. But we will see. We shall see. But before I get into Night of Champions, I do just want to talk about something that actually, like, my favorite part of Night of Champions didn't actually happen on the Night of Champions show. It happened the night before on SmackDown, because, again, they were in Saudi Arabia, and the show actually aired very early if you had a NordVPN, which I don't. I honestly, I don't even care about that stuff. When I want to watch SmackDown, I watch it the next day, because, again, I work. Get a job, you lazy bum. I don't know why I'm so mean to my audience. That wasn't called for. But anyway, so I did not watch all of SmackDown. There was one thing I wanted to see, and I was very like, yes, I haven't seen basic punk. I haven't seen basic Punkonomics. Not gonna lie, I don't care about. I never really cared for the Doctor of Thugonomics era of John Cena. I'm not into rap. It's not my thing. And Punk wearing thug gear covered in tattoos is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm good. I haven't seen that segment, nor am I going to. I don't care. Cena stealing the pipe bomb was enough for me to be sold on the match. So But what I did want to see on SmackDown is Julia beating Zelina Vega for the WWE Women's United States Championship. That was my favorite part of SmackDown. I cannot describe to you how sick and tired I am of Zelina Vega. She's horrible. The fact that she has ever held a championship or won a single or been on television as a wrestler is embarrassing and insulting. I'm thankful that they finally took the strap off of her. But the funniest thing was, before the match even started, she looked depressed. Like, you could you knew what was going through her mind. She was not happy that she was about to lose to Julia. Well, you know what, Zelina? Maybe if you could, I don't know, wrestle, you would have been able to hold that strap a little bit longer. But let's be real. Zelina, I've said this over and over and over again, and I will say it until this is the hill I will die on. Zelina Vega is not a wrestler. She is a valet. Like, I don't like her wrestling any more than I like Maxine Dupree wrestling, but at least Maxine is tall. She's not good. Her in-ring is arguably worse than Zelina's. But at least she has the potential, or she's in some ways are like, okay, it might be a little difficult to wrestle her because she has a little bit of a height thing. Zelina Vega, she's so tiny. And I'm not even like one of these Jim Cornette guys who just hates everyone who's small. But there's a such thing as too small. She's microscopic. She's Hispanic. She's Latina Riho. And I can't stand her. And the fact that she also likes anime and video games makes me sad, because when someone I don't likes some of the things that I like, it makes me dislike them more, because I'm like, how dare you find that cool too? I don't want to relate to you. Stop trying to relate to the masses. That's not know your lane and stick to it. She was so much better as Andrade Cien Almas' valet, his manager. Why can't she be Aleister Black's manager? Why can't she go back to being Andrade's manager? That's what she's good at. You know, not wrestling, doing a Rana every once in a while on the dude who's wrestling whoever while the referee's back is turned. That's what she was good at. This is one of those. Her and Charlotte Flair are like two of the remaining Vince holdover ideas. Because Vince's thing was, basically, if you appear on screen, you have to wrestle.
Not everyone needs to wrestle, Vince. Triple H, Paul, I'm looking at you, Paul. Not everyone needs to wrestle.
But yeah, Julia is the new Women's United States Champion. I still think that having a Women's United States Championship is stupid. I still think that having a Women's Intercontinental Championship is stupid, but at least they're doing something interesting with the Women's Intercontinental title. That belt actually feels important, because I really, really like the feud between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, and Bayley's also intertwined with it, which that might be turning into a triple threat. That might be a triple threat match at Evolution. But I'm digging what they're doing with the Women's Intercontinental Championship. They have done practically nothing with the Women's U.S. title. Chelsea Green she won it. The most over it was the night she won it on Saturday Night's Main Event. She had a nothing reign. She lost to Zelina Vega in a horrible match, and had a series of horrible matches with Zelina Vega. And Zelina Vega did nothing but feud with the Secret Hervis, which I feel like a retard just saying the name of that group. And let's not forget, the worst 619 ever that somehow still broke Chelsea Green's nose. That right there probably is when they were like, all right, the Zelina experiment, the Zelina experiment is officially over. Oh my God, why did we ever do this? Why do we have multiple women's championships on this show? Why did we think giving one to Zelina was a good idea? I just hope and pray next year after WrestleMania 42, when they inevitably have another Black Friday and they cut like a good 15 wrestlers from the roster, If Zelina Vega's name is not on that list of releases, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be so pissed. She brings nothing to the table. She brings nothing to the table. She's very on the mic. She's atrocious in the ring. And when she comes out to the ring, the crowd reacts in silence. Which at least the crowd... If she was over with the crowd, that would just honestly make me angrier. But at least she gets zero reactions. It's like it's getting to the point where she's almost getting Raquel Rodriguez reactions. Which, at least for Raquel Rodriguez on Night of Champions, she actually had a good match for once in her life, which I'll get to. But holy crap, I'm so done with Zelina Vega. It's not even funny. Literally the only person in WWE that I like less than Zelina is Charlotte, because at least Zelina Vega doesn't go into business for herself and actively try to drag the program down. She just accidentally, non-purposefully, drags the program down whenever she's on screen. She's not trying to be awful. She just is awful. Charlotte is both awful accidentally and on purpose. It's one thing when you're accidentally bad. It's another thing entirely when you're both accidentally bad and purposefully bad. So Charlotte's still the worst, but Zelina Vega, she's a solid number 2 for my least favorite thing in WWE. But yeah, congratulations to Julia. One of my favorite things about Julia winning the title is they had an interview that aired on SmackDown where Julia straight up said, "Zelina Vega cares about this championship. I don't. It's a stepping stone." And then she proceeds to beat her. I don't care about this belt, but I'm gonna beat you for it anyway. That's hilarious. We need more real attitudes as far as WWE competitors are concerned. That honestly made me love Julia more. So congratulations to Julia, trying to save the U.S. title. Step 1 was getting it off of Zelina Vega's atrocious little tiny waist. Now let's see if Julia can actually do something with it. Oh, also on that note, SmackDown is officially going back to 2 hours. Thank God. Listen, no wrestling show should be 3 hours long every week. I don't care what show it is. If I had a wrestling show, if I did TAW Action and TAW Rivals every week, I would not make those shows 3 hours every week. That would be insufferable, and I would want to kill myself. So, and honestly, a lot of weeks I just skip SmackDown because I don't feel like sitting through 3 hours of SmackDown. And Raw has been largely good on Netflix this year. I have very much enjoyed Raw pretty much every single week. That would probably not be the case if Raw was 3 hours every week. But thankfully, SmackDown went back to 2 hours, and from what I've heard, it's a permanent thing, so please. But anyway, enough of talking about SmackDown. Let's actually get into Night of Champions. Again, this show was one thing that was kind of funny, this was Night of Champions, yet there were only 2 championship matches. The least amount of championships ever defended at a Night of Champions show, because the concept of Night of Champions I actually really like. And I actually like the Night of Champions pay-per-view. The idea is every single championship defended. But you kind of run into a problem because Triple H is allergic to B shows having lengthy cards. So even if every championship, if every match on this show was a title match, you still have several championships left over that just weren't defended on the show. So, at this point, I would just rename it to Clash of Champions, or just remove Night of Champions and replace it with something like Unforgiven or No Mercy. Wasn't Unforgiven the pay-per-view that was usually right after SummerSlam? Just replace Night of Champions with Unforgiven. Bring Unforgiven back. # bring Unforgiven back. But having a Night of Champions show with 2 title matches is ridiculous. That's just very, very silly and dumb, and I hate it. It flies directly against the concept of the show itself, and I don't understand why they even bothered. Funnily enough, Night of Champions 2010 was the second pay-per-view I've ever watched, the second WWE show I've ever watched. I still have it on DVD, I believe. Yes, I do have it on DVD. It's on my shelf over there that you cannot see because this is a podcast. And just for old time's sake, just for my own nostalgia, I promise I'll get to Night of Champions 2025 at some point during this podcast. But I'm gonna run through the card of Night of Champions 2010, just for nostalgia. Yeah, Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston for the Intercontinental title. That was a great match. That was a great opener. Big Show knocked out CM Punk. That mid-air spear was great, and CM Punk's anti-Chicago promo, where he sounded like an absolute psychopath, was absolutely hilarious. Daniel Bryan and The Miz actually had the best match on that show for the U.S. title. Okay, the feud Daniel Bryan and The Miz had later on SmackDown is so overrated, and The Miz's promo, like his somewhat shoot promo on Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack, is the single most overrated promo of all time. I don't get why people love that promo so much. It's very overrated. But this match was actually very good. This was the match of the night, in my opinion, for the U.S. title. Michelle McCool and Melina had a terrible match, a Lumberjill match, to unify the Women's and Divas title. That match sucked. Yeah, but it was Divas matches in the 2010s. What do you expect? Kane and The Undertaker had a no-holds-barred match for the World Heavyweight title, which was actually pretty good, surprisingly good, in my opinion. There was a tag team turmoil match for the WWE tag team titles that resulted in Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre winning the tag team titles, that's very interesting. Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, very different people back in 20... This is back when Cody was doing the dashing thing. In the main event was Randy Orton defeating Sheamus, Wade Barrett, John Cena, Edge, and Chris Jericho in a six-pack elimination challenge match for the WWE Championship. And that was also a really fun match. The crowd was hot for that match. But yeah, that show, go watch Night of Champions 2010. That was a fun show. It was better than 2025. That was a better Night of Champions. And Night of Champions 2009 is also really good, and 2008 is also pretty good. I'm your Night of Champions historian here, apparently. But yeah, this Night of Champions, the 2025 variant, the disease it was okay, that's a little harsh. It was fine. It was a B show. It actually started off with the best match of the night by far, in my opinion. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton in the King of the Ring tournament finals. The story of this match was Randy Orton selling his back. He did a superplex early and came up selling his back. It was funny because Cody Rhodes actually got up from the superplex faster than Randy did because Randy was selling his back. Randy Orton is so fantastic at selling. Randy's basically perfect at everything he does. I love him. One of my all-time favorites for a reason. And Cody Rhodes is also magnificent. I don't care what X has to say about it. Cody Rhodes is a fantastic professional wrestler, and I will hear no dissenting opinions. You are just wrong, and the only people that hate Cody Rhodes are the same people who hate Rhea Ripley. They hate WWE whenever they have a top babyface. They hate the concept of top babyfaces. It doesn't matter who it is or how good they are. If it's a top babyface, X just doesn't like them. Or Instagram comments. So their opinion means nothing to me. I'm glad that Cody Rhodes is adding the missile dropkick back into his arsenal. He actually delivers a really good missile dropkick, and I would rather him just use that. I'm over the Cody Cutter. He doesn't need to do it, and sometimes I'm worried he's going to kill himself trying to do it. I do not like the Cody Cutter, but I loved that mid-air RKO when I think he was trying to go for a disaster kick. But he got caught in mid-air for that RKO off the disaster kick. That was awesome. But I will say, I was not super crazy about the fact that Cody kicked out of 2 RKOs in our opening match. We don't need double finisher kickouts in the opening contest. And Randy also kicked out of Crossroads because, of course. I mean, I get it. It's Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. I expected finisher kickouts, but it's the opening match. I know. I'm old man yelling at the sky, but we do not need finisher kickouts in our opening contest. Why? But it was still a very good match. There was a part where I can't remember exactly what move Randy Orton did, but he did a move and he struggled to get to the cover. Like he went for a cover, but then he stopped, held his back, and then went for a cover. I loved that. That was such such realism injected into the match. I loved it. And I also really like the finish where Randy's starting to hint at turning heel, which at some point I assume he will. He went for a chair, and then the referee was distracted throwing the chair out of the ring, so Randy Orton turned around and undid the turnbuckle. But Cody Rhodes countered him and threw him ribs because his midsection is already compromised. If your back is hurting and then you hurt your ribs, that's also going to hurt your back more, so it made sense. Right into a crossroads. I loved that, and I loved that Cody was willing to do that. If only he would have been willing to do something like that at WrestleMania, but whatever, we're not going to talk about that. So yeah, Cody Rhodes is the king of the ring. Yes, it was predictable, but these two worked very well together. I mean, of course, they know each other so well, and there's so much history there. And this is just honestly scratching the surface. This is just the first match between these two. I expect to see several more. But what really stood out to me is the look on Randy Orton's face while Cody Rhodes was cutting his victory promo, holding the crown. Randy Orton, he had the look on his face. If my back wasn't shot, I would murder you right now. Like, I would drop you right now if my back wasn't killing me. Just you wait. So my assumption is after Cody beats John Cena at SummerSlam, I assume he's going to beat John Cena. I could be wrong, but I don't know why they would have John Cena win again over Cody. I'll get to that later, but I assume after John Cena, it's going to be Cody and Randy's going to turn heel, and it's going to be the feud we wanted last year when we got Cody and Kevin Owens instead for some reason, which was still great, but I want Cody and Randy. Gosh darn it. Gosh dang it. I want what I want, and I want what I want now. Thank you, kind sir. So, although I love Cody, but there were multiple times during this victory promo where he was referring to wrestlers as characters, like, I've wrestled these beloved characters, and every time he said the word character, I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle him. I know that kayfabe is dead, but you don't have to confirm that kayfabe is dead on camera during the show. Cody, can you call them wrestlers? That I was not very sports entertained by that. Stop calling them characters. Thank you. I feel like Sean's going to agree with me on that little critique. But yeah, this was the best thing on the show. If you want to go watch anything on Night of Champions, I would definitely recommend Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Yeah, that was good. And up next, we had the best match that Raquel Rodriguez has had in years in a street fight against Rhea Ripley. This was very good. And honestly, after this match, I was like, oh, we're 2 for 2 on this night. Did not last, but we'll get to that. This was a very fun street fight. They did some creative spots. When Raquel had Rhea Ripley tied up in the ropes and was just whacking her with a kendo stick, she was laying that in. And I don't even think Rhea Ripley needed to sell, because I think she was legitimately just in pain from that kendo stick, because that looked brutal. And there was a point where Raquel was going to hit her in the head with a chair, and Rhea just full force booted it right into Raquel's face. She kicked her hard, and I was like, oh god. I'm surprised she didn't get busted open like Nia Jax did when Tiffany Stratton drop-kicked a chair into her face. But man, that was a nasty thud. And, but the spot of the match, okay, so at a point Raquel had the announce table hood over the barricade, and then she picked up Rhea Ripley and powerbombed her through it to the floor. That was nasty. That spot was nuts, and I'm glad that... I was scared, but I'm glad that Rhea Ripley did not smack the back of her head on the ground like Drew McIntyre did at Backlash, because I was worried about it, and she started grabbing the back of her head, but I assumed she was just selling. But for a second there, I was concerned that she smacked the back of her head on the ground, because that would have been Concussion City right there. But and then at a point, Roxanne Perez came out to continue that story, but she got shoved inside a trash can, and she's also very tiny, so she probably could have fit all the way into that trash can, which would have been hilarious. Honestly, Rhea should have just shoved her entire body into the trash can to where she's stuck, and they just have a trash can just at ringside for the rest of the show, and Roxanne is just stuck inside the trash can for the entire show. That would have been hilarious. I don't think Skylar's going to like that comment. But hey, I like comedy. Leave me alone. And then we had a super riptide from the top. They put the table on the top rope, kind of like they did with Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon back during their street fight at King of the Ring 2001. Super riptide off of that for the 1, 2, 3. This, like I said, is the best match that Raquel Rodriguez has had in forever. This was very good. But another predictable. This whole entire show was very predictable. And predictability does not always does not always equal bad. But sometimes predictable does not mean overly interesting. But Rhea got a win. And honestly, I think the SummerSlam match might be Rhea versus Io Sky. That is much less predictable. But we will see where that goes. After that, we had Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. Okay. So, the whole hashtag push Karrion Kross thing, the pops he gets whenever he's on TV, this was his time to shine, and they literally said on commentary, there's been a groundswell of support, but it's up to Karrion Kross to show that he's worth a damn. And when I heard that, I was like, ooh, Karrion, you better perform in this match. And I thought this match was good, but it was also just, it was a TV match. It was fine. And it never went past fine to me. And like there was that rumor that the reason why Karrion doesn't get a push is because he can't take back bumps or just doesn't. He took plenty of bumps in this match, so he looked fine. He actually delivered a thunderous exploder suplex at a point, which I loved. Although immediately Wade Barrett and Michael Cole both called it a Doomsday Saito. They don't. That is not what that is. That was an exploder. That was more like the kind of exploder, one of the exploders that Taz would throw around. That was not a... Karrion actually did a Doomsday Saito suplex later. And a Saito suplex is basically... instead, like, when they do the back suplex, they lift up the back and the leg to do the back suplex. Saito is you don't grab the leg, you just grab by the waist and throw them over your head. That's a Saito suplex. The first suplex that Karrion did was not a Saito suplex. That was an exploder. Yes, I care. It matters to me that the announcers on a wrestling show know what the moves are. That matters to me. Sorry. I know, old man yelling at the sky. Leave me alone. But again, this felt like a Raw match. It was fine, and the finish was very predictable. As soon as Karrion was taunting in the corner and hit him with one clothesline, I was like, he's gonna taunt him some more. Hit him with a second clothesline, taunt him some more. But when he goes back the third time, he'll Luva kick 1, 2, 3. And what do you know? That's exactly what happened. So, Sami Zayn won. I figured that Sami was going to win because they were in Saudi. Sami's a Muslim. Of course, that's what they're going to do. He got a mega reaction in Saudi, which should surprise no one. But I would have had Karrion win this match. I really would have. So I'm a little concerned. But we'll see. We'll see if they do anything with Karrion past this point. We shall see. I think that he's just going to go back to doing backstage devil's advocate Sean O'Hare shit-stir type stuff backstage. And then one day he's just going to be released and everyone's going to be mad. And then a couple weeks after that, no one's going to care. So that was that. And then after that, we had Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu for the WWE United States Championship. This was also fine. I feel like these two are capable of a lot more. But again, I feel like this is just the first match in this feud between these two. So they're probably saving more for later. But this was still good. Absolute highlight of the match, though. Jacob Fatu is one crazy son of a bitch. There was a point where Tongaloa, which that was a little bit of a shock. Tongaloa and Jeff Cobb, and I'm going to call him Jeff Cobb. I'm not calling him JC Mateo because that name sucks, and it's why he's failing to get over. But that's another conversation for another day. They were both outside the ring. Jacob Fatu starts running, and I'm like, oh, he's going to do like a tope con hilo or a suicide dive to knock them both over. No, this dude does a spaceman plancha. And my jaw nearly fell out of my face. Jacob Fatu ain't no small man. He ain't no cruiserweight. But bruh, I was not expecting the Fallsbury flop. How? That was insane. I love Jacob Fatu so much. But this is where we got the debut of Hikuleo, which they have not named. Well, they didn't name him on Night of Champions, but the rumor is they're calling him Talatanga. Get it? Because he's tall. Of the Tongans, he's the tallest one, so his name's Talatanga. Where's Gary? Where's my boy Gary? Come on. He's a tall Tongan, so they named him Talatongan. There we go. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. But yeah, Hikuleo drags him out of the ring and chokeslams him on a table, which does not break, which is crazy because it's Jacob Fatu. He's not a he ain't no cruiserweight. But my problem with this is how they did it. Okay, I understand why they did it because they were going to do a ref bump later in the night, which I have a problem with that also, but I'll get to that when I get to that. But, so, JC Mateo is in the ring, and the referee's trying to shove him out of the ring, but you never see that. All we see is Hikuleo dragging Jacob Fatu out of the ring and slamming him on the table, and that takes like 15 to 20 seconds. And the announcers are just telling us that the referee is busy tending to Jeff Cobb. But the camera never goes over to show the referee trying to get Jeff Cobb out of the ring. So the whole time you're just like, how is this not a disqualification? How is this not a disqualification? Is the referee literally blind? Is the referee literally retarded? Is the referee literally... Did they replace the referee with Helen Keller? So I didn't like that. It took too long, and they didn't show that the referee was out of position. They could have done a better job with keeping the referee out of position. But yeah, Solo Sikoa wins the U.S. title, and when he gave Jacob the Samoan spike, Jacob did this crazy inside-out bump that I loved. But Solo Sikoa finally gets some gold here in WWE, and he's gone from having 2 members of the Bloodline to 4. So that was some storyline development right there. The match was fine. It was nothing to write home about other than the Spaceman plancha that Jacob Fatu did, because how? How on earth? What? Excuse me? Huh? So, yeah, that was interesting. I'm looking forward to see where this goes from there on SmackDown. The Bloodline will never die. It will exist for the rest of eternity. Moving on, we had the worst thing on the show by a country mile, Jade Cargill and Asuka in the Queen of the Ring tournament final. In a word, I thought this match was simply this.
It's a disaster!
Yeah. Was not pretty. And honestly, the second that Asuka made it to the finals and Jade made it to the finals, when it was obvious that it was going to be those two in the finals, I said out loud, "Uh-oh." I was like, that is, if that, okay. I thought that Jade and Naomi at WrestleMania, if it didn't go short, it was going to be bad. And it actually turned out to be pretty good. So I was like, okay. So maybe this will be good. Nope. Okay, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't truly awful. I might be overselling how bad it was just a tad. It was just not great. A lot of it was Jade looking like she's terrified of injuring Asuka, which is a kind of a problem with Jade that is rearing its head more often. She's still not used to doing singles matches, which I feel like that is blindingly obvious. Asuka looked fine. Asuka, since she's came back, has looked much better than she has in years. Although I hate her new finish, her Empress Impact finish. She's basically using Jada Parker's finish from NXT. Except I can believe it from Jada Parker because she has some junk in the trunk. Asuka, she's tiny. Well, she's not super tiny. She's not like Zelina Vega tiny. But I do not believe that her jumping and doing a flying ass attack is going to knock someone out for a 3 count. I can believe Jada Parker's can because she's got junk in the trunk. That would hurt. But I don't believe it. Like, just give Asuka a roundhouse kick. What was wrong with the Asuka lock? Which she used in this match. Why does she need the butt blaster disaster attack? This podcast is very mature, once again, as I've stated. But yeah, again, this, honestly, this was okay, but I'm very much losing my patience with Jade Cargill. She's not great. And again, she's very new to this, but we're starting to get to the point where, okay, when are we going to start getting some return on an investment here? You gotta start clicking with it at some point. I'm worried that Jade's just not ever gonna get there, and the crowd's not gonna give her a chance to get there, and I'm worried about Jade. Not gonna lie. Again, I don't think she's terrible. I didn't think this match was terrible, but it certainly was not very good. But I will say one thing that she can absolutely do better: the finish of this sucked. Simply because Jade hits Jaded, which looks good. The move itself looks good. But when she... Alright, so she does a Jaded, and she usually sits on her opponent as she's pinning her, which is fine. But the problem is she pulled back on Asuka's legs and reared back so far that she nearly lifted Asuka off the mat before the referee's hand hit 3. Like, she literally ruined the cover. But because that was the finish, the referee had to count 3 anyway. And when they showed replays, they very carefully did not shoot replays from that angle because they didn't want to show Asuka's shoulder being up because that was the finish. Jade just screwed up her own pinfall. Jade, you don't have to rear all the way back. Why? What are you trying to find back there? Just pin the woman. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Just pin her. This isn't as bad as when Cameron sat on Naomi's back and screamed at the referee pin, and the referee explained to her she has to have her shoulders down because Cameron's legitimately retarded or has just never seen wrestling before, therefore why is she on the TV? Nice little Cameron shout out there. I wonder what she's doing. Probably decomposing in a ditch somewhere. Anyway, that was harsh. Yeah, this was not great. And Jade Cargill is the queen of the ring and will be challenging whoever the WWE Women's Champion is at SummerSlam, just like Cody Rhodes, who won King of the Ring, will be challenging John Cena at SummerSlam for the WWE title. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. I'm guessing that during the match, either Jade's going to win the title, and then Naomi's going to cash in, and Jade's going to be champion for like 5 minutes, or Naomi's going to cash in during the match, making it a triple threat match, and that's when she wins the title. Which I wouldn't do that because they did that literally 2 years ago. Didn't they do that exact thing at SummerSlam 2023? Can we not do the women's title match be a Money in the Bank cash-in triple threat every other SummerSlam? Can we not make this a thing? Can this not be a thing? But whatever, we'll see what they do. It's not that big a deal. I just think it's a little repetitive. Kind of like Triple H's booking in 2025. But anyway, speaking of which, we had our main event, CM Punk versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. I really liked the first 3/4 of this match, and I absolutely hated the last fourth. Because the first 3/4 were John Cena and CM Punk. They have chemistry. They were going through their greatest hits. They were having a good match, although I don't think CM Punk needed to kick out of 3 attitude adjustments. That was a little ridiculous, but it's a John Cena CM Punk match. What do you expect? But it was good. It was nowhere near on the level of their previous, more classic encounters. But of course, that was like 10 years ago. They're not the same competitors. They've gotten older, but it was still good. And then the last fourth of the match, I am so sick and tired of every main event in a WWE, every WWE pay-per-view main event is just an endless interference fest. Just interference after interference. The entire backstage locker room emptying for the main event. Triple H, you gotta be more creative. This is the same shit, different day. I'm so sick of it. Just, can we have a one-on-one match where someone just wins? It was so tiresome. Like, as soon as the ref got bumped, I was like, here we go. There's gonna be 50 people coming out. Seth Rollins came out. His Goon Squad came out. Then Penta came out, and Sammy came out, then so-and-so came out, and their cousin came out, and their wife, and then the National Guard came out, and I was like, oh my god, can we stop? And this whole time, the referee is... The only thing about this that I liked is that Charles Robinson tried to come to the ring because Seth Rollins was motioning that he wanted to cash in Money in the Bank. And then John Cena comes out of left field. Actually, he was coming out of the right corner of the screen, but out of left field and just body checks Charles Robinson. Nearly murdered and crippled this man. That was hilarious. I loved that. And it was a nice little callback to what he did to Johnny Ace back at Money in the Bank 2011. That was a nice, subtle little callback where he beamed John Laurinaitis at Money in the Bank 2011, which was also hilarious. But then, of course... Seth Rollins hits CM Punk in the face with the briefcase and gives him a curb stomp. John Cena throws him outside the ring and gets the 1-2-3. But that is what pissed me off the most. The referee, I forget what, Dan Angler, I think his name is, he gets knocked out of the ring for like 40 years and comes to at the exact moment that John Cena throws Seth Rollins out of the ring and goes for the cover on Punk. Bullshit. Oh my god. That was so, like, that was more contrived than I could handle. I can handle a little bit of contrivancy, if that's even a word. Wrestling itself is contrived, but I can handle it in small doses. That was way too much. I was like, oh my god. Of course the referee magically respawns at the exact opportune moment. So yeah, I did not enjoy the main event. I enjoyed most of the main event, but I hated the finish because I'm so sick and tired of it turning into a massive interference fest. It's just, I've seen it. I've seen this before. It was awesome at WrestleMania 40. It was less awesome at SummerSlam last year. And I'm tired of it now, because that's basically been how the main event has gone down for the past, how many pay-per-views now? Ugh. So yeah, that was Night of Champions. It was fine. Do I recommend going out of your way to watch? Not really. I mean, go watch Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Go watch that, I guess, because there was some really good stuff in that match. But nothing else. And if you have to see the last match between CM Punk and John Cena, then I guess go watch it. But prepare for it to turn into a overbooked mess by the end, with Jeff Jarrett signing his signature of approval on it. I'm going to give this show a 6 out of 10. It was fine. Nothing on the show was horribly offensive other than Jade Cargill trying to pin Asuka and pulling back so far that she almost went out of a pin into a suplex on Asuka. That's how bad it was. That was the only thing on the show that was truly awful. But it was a show. It was a show. It was the most show of all time. It was a show that happened. So that is my review of Night of Champions 2025. If you want a more in-depth, nuanced analysis of Night of Champions, then stay tuned later on in the week for the Court Martial podcast, and they will deliver their thoughts on this pay-per-view, as will I in note form. So I'll be looking forward to that. But now, I'm going to get into some interesting things. I have a brand new episode of Pizza Hut Insanity.
Pizza Hut Insanity!
A couple of meth heads got arrested right in our parking lot. That's it. This has been
Pizza Hut Insanity!
Well, that was fast. But yeah, at the store, like, we were outside, and then all of a sudden there were police officers in our parking lot. Because the Pizza Hut I work at, it's attached to several other businesses. Like, we're attached to a vape store, which is attached to a Food Line, which is attached to a Subway, which is attached to a Chinese restaurant called 88. Apparently, 2 meth heads with, like, maybe 3 teeth between the 2 of them, they tried to steal a whole bunch of stuff from Food Line, and basically the customer section of our parking lot was completely blocked off because they were being hauled away in handcuffs, and it was very entertaining to me and all of my coworkers. So yeah, that was and just another day in Lancaster, ladies and gentlemen. Meth and pizza and jail. That's the Lancaster experience right there. Meth, pizza, jail. But I also have a brand new installment of Joshua versus my car. Yeah. I have so many installments of this segment, I could literally make a movie out of it. But yes, my car situation has been resolved, ladies and gentlemen. Huzzah! Huzzah! Where's some applause? Where's some applause? I need some applause. Where is some applause? Applause. Oh, shit! I played the laugh track. That's not what I wanted. How dare you laugh at my victory over vehicular misfortune. So, as you know, in the last episode, I said that I hit a deer and it caused some problems, as in my car almost caught on fire. Well, it's been over a month, and that's about how long that my insurance took to, take care of everything, and I'm not angry about that at all. Not whatsoever. Hey, Progressive, I have a message for you.
Go fuck yourself!
What Cody said. So, basically, they finally looked at my claim, and they totaled my car. Yeah, my car was totaled. Womp, womp, womp. There goes my Honda. My beautiful Honda! Oh, no! Ah! Alright, I'm done grieving. So, I had been borrowing my mom's car, and my mom just decided to sign over her car to me, which I like because I actually like my mom's car more than my old Honda, so I didn't grieve for that long. So, my mom's car is now my car. My mom, on the other hand, got a Jeep. She got a red Jeep the other day. Actually, I'm going to bring my mom in here real quick. Give me just a second. Mom, come here. I need to ask you something. Also, you're being recorded. This is the first time I've ever had a guest on Post TAP. Tell them, the lovely people, about your Jeep.
What about my awesome, rocking Jeep Patriot?
What year is it?
2014 red Jeep Patriot with only 40,000 miles. Actually, it's a Jeep Patriot Latitude, high altitude.
But what about the longitude?
No longitude. Just no longitude. Just latitude.
You stop that right now.
I say longitude if I want to.
It's very spacious as well.
It is. It's very spacious. I love it. It's awesome.
And you gave me your car, correct?
I did. That's right.
And my mommy's car is also really nice.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
It's a 2011 Hyundai Sonata.
Yeah, when I when they totaled my Honda, they wrote me a check for like $2,800 something, and that was with my deductible already taken out of it. So I gave that to my mommy.
Woo!
So my mommy was a couple grand richer.
But mommy had to go
immediately spend that.
And invest in a new vehicle, and now I have a car payment that I haven't had in 15 years. So I'm excited about that.
And now I'm back on your insurance, but I'm paying you $180 a month.
Yes, because that made my insurance triple.
I didn't do anything, though. That was the deer's fault.
I told them the deer hit you. They didn't seem to care.
Because they probably...
Between that and your rolling stop.
We don't have to. All right.
I love you.
I love you, Mom.
Whoop whoop.
Bye.
Jeeps rule.
Well, that was a thing that happened. Also, that background noise that you're hearing, that's our dryer. There's something deathly wrong with it. I don't know what it is, and I kind of think it's hilarious, but you know what? I'm going to end the podcast by, actually going in there so you can hear our dryer. I'm picking up my laptop and my microphone. I want you to hear this thing. I hope it really starts squeaking. Come on, I know you got some squeaks left in you. Oh, there we go. Imagine that, but much louder. This is the first mobile on-the-go post-TAP episode, but that's about all for this episode. Oh, I forgot to mention, I had a bladder problem, but it was resolved. I peed like 80 times on Saturday and 80 times on Sunday, so I thought I had a serious problem, but I went from peeing 80 times a day to 40 to 20, and now I'm back down to normal. So this has been Joshua's Pee-Pee Problems, the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Bye. If you unsubscribed after this, I wouldn't blame you. Bye. Hi. So I thought the podcast was over, but I have a quick little addendum to make. First, I apologize for the super annoying sound of my dryer during most of the video. But I literally walked the laptop over to it, which I still think is pretty funny. But the title of this episode is a lie, because while I was delivering a pizza tonight at the end of my shift, my car, I tried to put it in park, but it wouldn't come out of drive. And even though the gear shift went into park, but it still said it was in drive. So I moved the gear shift back and forth. It would not come out of drive, so I turned my car off. And my car would not turn back on, so I ended up having to get my car towed. So that's going to have to get fixed. And my car problems never end. I am cursed. Every car I have just hates me. It hates the idea of functioning properly, and I hate the idea of owning a car. So that was a nice little addendum. I'm sure I'll have an update on the next episode of Post TAP. This was episode 17, by the way. 17 is my favorite number, although this is not my favorite day of my life because I hate motor vehicles and they hate me. So please pray for my sanity because I am so sick and tired of dealing with this crap. As fun as these segments are to recap, I just want a functioning car. That's all I want. Literally, that is all I want. But again, thank you guys so much for listening to Post TAP episode 17. Be looking forward to some more fun stuff coming in the near future. And once again, pray for my sanity because I might not have it for all that much longer. Later, everybody.